What's up, everybody? I'm Adam. You're watching the Model Aviator channel. In today's quick look demo episode, we're checking out the new Durafly P-40 version 2, and this one is interesting. We've come full circle. The very first review that we ever did was over a decade ago. It wasn't on YouTube. It was actually a review that we did and posted on RC groups, and it was the OG Durafly P-40N that Stuart Warren with Hobby King sent us. Stuart is the man behind the version 2, and he asked us to check this one out, so let's do just that. The P-40 has a 43-inch wingspan and weighs in at about 3 pounds, ready to fly with a recommended pack. So it's an 1100mm class warbird, and a lot of people would consider that a park flyer. But make no mistake, you need some space to comfortably fly this airplane. Hobby King sells this as a plug and fly, which means all of the electronics are pre-installed for you except for a receiver. You source your receiver of choice and install that yourself. It's a 7-channel airplane out of the box. You have elevator, rudder with a steerable tail wheel, ailerons, split flaps, 90-degree rotating retractable main gear, throttle control, and even a servo-actuated bomb drop. Stuart and the folks at Durafly did a few things to turn this into the Durafly P-40 version 2, the most noticeable of which is this very distinctive paint scheme. This model is done up in the markings of the 11th Fighter Squadron of the 343rd Fighter Group of the U.S. Army Air Forces. They were dispatched to the Aleutian and Alaskan island chain to defend them against the Japanese shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor. They were led by Lieutenant Colonel John Chennault, and if that name sounds familiar, it should. He is the son of General Claire Chennault, the man that led the American volunteer group in China, the Flying Tigers. And the Chennault family heritage is how these guys got their nickname, the Aleutian Tigers. It's also why they've got that fierce-looking tiger painted on the nose. This mold has obviously been around for quite some time, and that brings us to another change that's been made for the version 2, and that is the density of the foam. The OG Durafly P-40 had the smoothest foam any of us had ever seen at the time. You literally could not see a foam cell anywhere in it. It was amazing to look at, but it was very dense and it was very heavy. That gave the P-40 a high wing loading and made it more warbird than a lot of pilots were comfortable handling. So now it's got less dense foam. You can see some foam cells in it. It's still relatively smooth, but it's a good bit lighter than the OG. That lowers the wing loading and makes the airplane more manageable for more pilots. The other thing that they've changed, a big point of contention for people, was the main landing gear. The retract units were not very reliable, and it didn't have suspension struts. So now you have all metal retract units that are much higher quality. They've got metal trunnions, and you have spring-loaded metal struts on the main gear, so that is greatly improved. The only other change was to change it to an M model P-40, which is what the Aleutian Tigers flew at the time, and that meant going from an N to an M, which is just a simple change of the way the rear portion of the canopy looks, so they did that. Everything else is pretty much prototypical OG Durafly P-40. My understanding is that other than the retracts, all the other electronics, motor, ESC, and servos are the same as the OG Durafly P-40. And of course it has lots of plastic parts, the front portion of the cowling, the exhaust stacks, the guns, the gear doors, and detail parts like antennas, a pitot tube. There's another antenna and or a gun sight that you can add on the front if you want. I looked at some full-scale P-40 M's and N's, and I didn't see these on the front of those, so I left them off, but you can put them on if you like. And of course, it is still a convenient top loader. You got a little pull tab here and a magnet in the back, and there's plenty of room in that battery bay for the recommended size packs, which is a 4S 2200, but the airplane will also fly on 3S if you want to. When it comes to the assembly, the P-40 comes with the patented quick setup guide that Hobby King sends with most of their airplanes, and there's a QR code that you can scan to gain access to the manual, or you can gain access to the online manual via the Hobby King website on the sales page for the Durafly P-40 version 2. The manual is all right. There's enough information there for somebody that knows what they're doing, which is basically who's going to be assembling this airplane. It is not an assembly like a lot of the modern day foam airplanes. You're not going to get this airplane together in 10 minutes. It's probably going to take you 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little more depending on who you are. There is some glue required. The only thing that I ran into that was kind of funky was putting on the cow flap. There are 3 pieces, 2 little mount pieces and the cow flap. The idea is that you glue the cow flap to the little mount pieces and you screw those into the foam, into some wood that's supposed to be embedded into the foam with 2 self-tapping screws that they provide. Well, I took a T-pin to try to find that wood, and I was willing to go in at different angles to find some wood to screw that to, and there is none. So I'm not really sure what they're talking about. I came up with a solution that is very similar to the solution that I saw John VHRC come up with on his assembly video. So if you want to see an unboxing and assembly video of this airplane, we'll link that in the description to John VHRC's video. Check that out. When it comes to setting up this model, the first thing you have to do is install your receiver choice. We fly Spectrum, so we installed an AR631 Plus receiver right here where you see it. That is an ASTRX Plus safe capable receiver. We're not utilizing safe. We are, however, utilizing ASTRX Plus stabilization. I do have it on a switch, so I can report to you what the airplane flies like both with and without a gyro. The only thing that I ran into setting up this airplane, because I'm using a 6-channel receiver, I don't have an extra channel for the bomb drop. I didn't want to put an 8-channel receiver in this airplane just for that, so I did something creative with the flaps. This is our flap menu in our transmitter, and you'll notice that I've got no flaps, landing flaps, and then landing flaps with 100% throw. That is where the bomb drops. I've actually got that tied into the flaps via a Y harness. That way when I go to position 2 on my flaps, it drops the bomb and the flaps go down further than I want for landing, but far enough to act as kind of speed brakes from the dive. So it works out. I have a bomb drop. I don't have takeoff flaps, but I don't use takeoff flaps to take this airplane off anyway, so no harm, no foul for me. You can obviously put the bomb drop on a separate channel if you want to put enough receiver in there to do that, or you can do it the way that I did it. When it comes to all other aspects of the setup, obviously the quick setup guide is a great place to start if you want. I kind of did my own thing for this. Our complete setup, including our ASTRX Plus settings for those of you that fly Spectrum, are coming up next. Pause that and check it out. When it comes to flight characteristics, we're going to narrate a bit during the demo flying, so I'll give you more details there. But it's a good flying airplane. The OG was heavier than this and stalled sooner than this. You can actually get this one a bit slower because of the lighter weight. But when the stall happens, it is the same stall that it had before. Like a lot of warbirds, it will drop a wing. And the longer you hold the up elevator, the deeper that wing will drop. If you do what I did in the stall test that you're going to see right before the main demo flight, you'll notice that the moment that the wing breaks, the moment it starts to drop, I immediately release the back pressure on the elevator and allow the airplane to start flying. I think a lot of people had issues with the OG on their first landing because they didn't do a stall test. They didn't know what was going to happen. The wings started to go, and they tried to help at a low altitude and ended up crashing the airplane. That can happen with just about any warbird if you do it wrong. So be sure and stall test it. Know what you're looking at when it's time to land this airplane, and you will be fine. That is, until the airplane gets on the ground. So this one is interesting. Good flying airplane, but when it comes to landing it, and I tried this a couple different ways, on a smooth surface, asphalt specifically, whether I 3-pointed it, whether I wheel landed it and brought the tail down, I had a very difficult time corralling this airplane. I could get it right sometimes. I think there are some things that you could do to make that a little easier to handle. One thing is you could use a rubber Dubro tail wheel. Those grip so much better than the kind of the hard tail wheel that this airplane comes with, and it also has a very small contact patch compared to the Dubro. The other thing is there is a way to align that tail wheel so that the airplane rolls perfectly straight. I didn't have time to do that. If you take the time to do that, when the tail comes down, it won't favor one side or the other and get the airplane started in one direction or the other. And a lot of times with the P-40, especially given the fact that it's got narrow gear and it sits up tall, as soon as it starts to go one way or another on asphalt, the wing is going to come up. Once the wing comes up, it doesn't matter what you do with the rudder. It doesn't matter what kind of tail wheel you have on it. You're not going to catch it until it hits that wing. And that's, of course, what happened to me. So if you make sure that you got a good Dubro tail wheel on there, and you also make sure that that tail wheel is perfectly aligned. Take the time to do that so that when the tail wheel comes down, the airplane's rolling straight. That in practice, I believe I could get used to this airplane and consistently land it well on asphalt, but I've got to take the time to do those things. The other thing to mention is that when you land this airplane in grass can cover a lot of issues, and it's much easier to deal with. The airplane's brilliant off grass, lands very well in grass, and the nice thing about a P-40, even a small one, is that you've got fairly large wheels, but you have no gear doors hanging down low to snag that grass, which means you can fly a P-40 in grass that other warbirds like P-51s and P-47s, the grass is going to grab those doors, and that's going to be the problem for you. So it's a really good airplane to fly off grass if you can. When it comes to skill level, obviously this is an old school model. It doesn't have things like a retractable tail wheel. It doesn't have LEDs. But to be fair, a lot of warbirds, even today in the 1100 millimeter class, many even in the 1.2 meter class, don't have that either. That tends to be kind of a 1400 millimeter and up feature, so that's kind of normal. And of course, the smaller warbirds, they fly well, but they don't fly as well as the larger ones. So I would say, just given the fact that the assembly takes a little bit of skill, you got to know how to set it up, because it doesn't come set up for you. And then, of course, the flying, this is probably not the best first warbird. It'd be a good second warbird, and it's certainly not a trainer. When it comes to the price point, I think the price point for what it is fair. If you get it in stock, this is a good little warbird to add to your hangar if you want a small P-40. So that is pretty much it for us. We are going to, oh, I forgot. I have to mention the bomb drop. Yeah. So that's what happens every time I drop this bomb, and I mean every time. And I hit the grass every time. The nose is going to get scrunched up. The cone's going to come off. I just keep gluing it. Maybe you could put some carbon fiber rod in there. I just keep gluing the thing back. But just know that the bomb drop feature is cool, but you are going to break your bomb, and it is not going to look as cool as it does before you drop it and it hits the ground. So now, that's it for us. We're going to go right into the demo flying. If you decide you'd like to add one of these to your hangar, we'll put a link in the description where you can go to Hobby King and do just that. When you go through that link, it helps support our channel. When you do that, we appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. Happy flying. Check out the demo flight. We'll see you next week with something cool with wings. Setting up for the 1G stall test here. Gear and flaps up, drops the right wing, release the back pressure, and it recovers immediately. Going to drop the gear and the landing flaps down, do the same test, and we'll get the same result. This will be a full demo flight. One thing I notice when it comes to ground handling, takeoff from a smooth surface, much easier than landing. Once you get the tail up, as long as you're on that rudder, pretty easy to hang on to. It does have a lot of torque though. You have to use a lot of right rudder and keep that rudder in on the fly mount. Going to do a low slope pass with the bomb hanging down. It looks pretty cool with the ordnance underneath. One of the things that I thought about, I wish they offered just a belly tank drop with it. That way you wouldn't have to worry about the fins breaking off when you drop it. It is pretty fun to drop that bomb and try to hit specific places. You could make a pretty cool challenge with your buddies out of that. At full power on 4S, this thing will move on out, and that vibrating noise that you heard was some of the ballast weight that I put in the chin scoop had come loose and was actually shaking around in there. It's a pretty stable flying warbird, slow with the flaps down, but I wouldn't want to be yanking it around in that configuration very slow. When it comes to aerobatics, it is as capable as any other 1100mm warbird you've ever flown. It'll do anything scale you want to do, or you can push it and it will do a lot more than scale. It flies inverted very well, doesn't take a ton of down elevator to hold it, and of course there's a lot more left over for shenanigans like that if you want to do it. Of course, if you watch our channel, then you know I absolutely had to try this. Cool little warbird. It flies well. I love the story of the Aleutian tigers. Very good history there. I have got to make the changes to this airplane on that tail wheel and get the little practice in so this doesn't happen.